is episode. Shit, I do this every damn time.
This isn't the Metal Rob show, by the way.
It's episode 164 of the Metal Roundtable. I am Metal Rob, and with me, as always, down there in his unreadable logo glory is the great
Carcass John.
And also
Scott. Yes, I am related to Roger Waters.
Nice. But today, kids, we have a special guest.
And he's harmless.
He is. I wouldn't fight him. I mean, I wouldn't fight him. I'm just saying. I'm kind of a lily, but yeah, I wouldn't fight Steve.
Wait, you know that military kung fu stuff, though. I'm intimidated by you.
I don't know about military. Yeah. I know Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't know about military. I was in the Navy. We learned to swim.
Well, no, I was.
I'll have to tell you a funny story off air, Steve. It's pretty funny.
The menacing Metal Rob will have to tell you his story.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's kind of funny.
David Grego, metal theologian, is here. I don't really have any shout outs. I was going to show a record that I got in the mail, but I don't think we can talk about it until Record Store Day. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that, so that blows that up. But
I do have.
I'll show this real quick because I did find something neat in a collection this week, and I wish I'd brought the other one up. So I buy and sell record collections, CDs, tapes. You guys all know that. But I found this cool thing, Texas Metal Archives, in a collection this week.
Hey, who put that out?
And Metal Rising Records put that out, and also Brain Ticket. This was you and JP, right?
That is correct. That is a labor of love. JP had worked on that thing for about 10 years. I came in to help him out, and we had that thing out in 6 months.
Yep.
Turned out great. If you can find a copy, treasure it, because it's got some rarities on there, man.
Yeah, man. It goes for about $30-$40. This is my second copy. But the other thing that I found that I wish I'd brought up here, and I forgot, is I was Carcass was over, and I was showing him the pile of CDs that I was going to listen to because I was interested in them. And is it Steel Prophet?
Steel Fury.
Yeah, great band.
Steel Fury. Okay. And I picked it up, and Carcass starts losing it, man, having a baby with a dress on, as he would say. And it was the first album cover he ever drew. So that one's going to go in the archives for sure. But that's it. I don't really have any shout outs this week.
I got a quick one.
I have a cold, so I'm going to have a hard time keeping up. I'm on cold medicine. And so, yeah.
Yeah. My voice is going in. My voice is going in and out too. So I'm having all kinds of issues. So
puberty's a bitch.
Yeah. But hey, I got a shout out to my college roommate. His name is John Cotter. Went to college back in the 1980s, and I was in high school also in the 80s. And even back then I had a denim battle vest, and I lost that denim battle vest years ago. And my college roommate John texted me one day, and he goes, like, "Dude, you'll never guess what I found. My high school denim battle vest that I hand painted back in the day."
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool. All right.
So this is from like 1983, 84. You see the tour date on there is 85 because obviously I didn't put the year it was done. But yeah, I was like so awesome to him to find this thing, man. All the patches are missing off of it. There used to be patches all over it, but the patches are gone. But I don't care because it's got the back painting that I did with the Anthrax logo hand painted on there.
You can't cut the threads off of that, can you? A hand painted. That's killer.
So you got paint over the Ingve?
Heck no. Nope.
Is that a patch? I've never seen an Ingve patch.
I seen Ingve in Alcatraz, and I saw him again the next like a year or two later on the very first tour in the United States for the Rape and Pillage tour. So I'm a big Ingve fan, but not as big as I was back then. But anyhow, that's my shout out. So my shout out to John Cotter. I also got a really cool single in the mail that I've been looking for a while. Looks like a Kansas single. No, it's not. It is a promo single for Mask of the Great Deceiver with Ronnie James Dio on vocals.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Like
Carrie Livgren.
Or Carrie Livgren.
Carrie Livgren.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was only ever released as a promo single, and I was able to score one for a good price. So pretty excited about that. I love that whole album, but that song is just awesome. So there you go.
Awesome.
No baloney Anzalone's here. Papa Wayne is here. AZ Mick, what is up? Nils, thank you for joining us. And Tony Clem, trust me, you've missed nothing.
Yeah.
Is everybody ready to get into this? Because it's going to be a long one, I think. Unless John's got shout outs. I'm sorry, I forgot.
I'll shout out Travis Hatley from Insipidus for sending me this awesome shirt from his death metal band.
I never would have got Insipidus.
Phthisis. No, Phthisis is the name of the band.
Oh.
It's PHTHISIS. Go from there.
What is up?
Yeah, wait till. In fact, I'll just shout out my my show after the Metal Rob show at 6:00 on Fridays on Deep Dallas Radio. I'm going to play a band that is they're Mayan and Quechua Indian from Mexico, and I can't pronounce the name of the band or the songs. I'll try to spell them out as I'm tracking the things out, but you'll have to check it out on Friday at 6:00 on Deep Dallas Radio, after Metal Rob.
Yeah, let's do that real quick. I'm trying to get better about doing this at the front and the end of the show. So you can follow me on Instagram at Metal Rob's Records. You can follow John on Instagram at Carcass John Art. You can find Steve. Where are you, Steve?
YouTube.
Rebel on YouTube. Okay. Check out Steve, and also check out Scott Waters' channel. He's got 1 billion followers, approximately an eighth of the world's population, and we still have 650 something.
Oh,
but
by the way, one more thing. Go ahead.
On Deep Dallas Radio, you can go on your Live 365 app. You can go on your Apple Radio. You can go on your TuneIn app. And Carcass and I have back-to-back shows starting at 5:00 Central Standard Time. Mine handles the more melodic side of things. We play some local bands. We play some indie bands. Found out about Stone Trip through the show, So I do more of the mainstream hard rock and melodic metal. And then at 6:00, we turn it over, and Carcass grinds the gears off the station and just melts your damn face off.
Well, let me just say that the first half hour will be a dedication and a tribute to the mighty Bruce Corbett, who passed away 4 years ago tomorrow, the 25th of January. So I'm going to do a first 30 minutes are going to be some unreleased Warbeast tracks, some demos, some live stuff from Rigor Mortis, some things you probably never have heard. So the first 30 minutes are dedicated to Bruce. And then at the bottom of the hour, of course, we have the triple thrash threat, and then we grind the gears off the station, and everybody goes home on a body box. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, and if you don't remember any of that, just Google Deep Dallas Radio. That's what we're both on.
There you go.
Let's get into it. I got to tell you, I've decided my way to approach the show is just to chime in, because I'm going to trump all of you at the end, right?
We already know what you're going to trump us with, so you might as well just start with it.
No, I'm going to say
why don't we
take it away?
Well, why don't we start with what is new wave of British heavy metal? Because I've actually been having discussions back and forth with the metal theologian on the phone about it, because he's done lots of videos on NWOBHM, and I actually never use that term. I always just say new wave of British heavy metal.
I do too. I never say NWOBHM.
Yeah, me either. But anyhow, regardless, so we've been going back and forth on it, and some people think new wave British heavy metal was a sound. I've always considered it just a movement that came out after the death of the original first wave of heavy metal. Because if I pulled a couple of U.S. magazines, but if you remember in like '78, magazines like Circus and Hit Parader and all those magazines were claiming that heavy metal was dead. This one says, "Can heavy metal survive the '70s?" Because metal was dead. And
I think it can.
I think it can.
Cream magazine is Metal Dead, 1979. So, but you got to think about it. The bands that were considered metal in 1978, 79, that was what? Deep Purple, who had dissolved, Black Sabbath, who were falling apart at the time. They hadn't yet, gotten Dio on board and put out the first album. There was Uriah Heep, who were falling apart. Rainbow, who kicked Dio out. UFO, who lost Schenker. So
Aerosmith was falling apart.
Aerosmith was falling apart at the seams. So it was just all these 70s bands that were considered metal at the time were just falling apart. Really, the only one that was still kicking ass and taking names was Judas Priest, and maybe Budgie. But even Budgie was changing their sound. Kiss was falling apart at the seams as well at that point.
Led Zeppelin, loss of their drummer.
Led Zeppelin, that was the end of Zeppelin. So I mean, the big bands of the first wave of British heavy metal was Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath. I mean, they were the big ones.
Some people throw in the Who. They had their moments of heaviness and loud, raucous speed, whatever. But you just mentioned the top three.
I'm kind of in the middle. I kind of feel like it's the sound, because there is a definitely drum and bass sound that most new wave of British heavy metal bands have. Now the guitar sounds are different, the vocals are different. You got some AOR sounding, some punk sounding, some metal sounding, but it was definitely a time frame. It was definitely like 79 to 83 was like the core of the new wave of British heavy metal. I mean, you had some stragglers in 83 and 80 or 84 and 85, but I think it was more that era, really.
Yeah, it was definitely like end of 78 through around 83 to you could push it up to like 85. But anyhow, excuse me. Sorry, I do have a nasty cold going on here. So that was when it was. But the other thing is, what do you limit it to? Do you limit it to only bands from the UK, or is it the British Isles? Because I've seen people say both. So if
I've always thought UK, but there were Swedish bands that sounded like new wave of British heavy metal bands at the same time. There were the first Anthrax was basically a play on new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah,
so
I kind of feel like it's not I feel like it started as a regional thing, but I think it morphed into more of a sound. Like,
sure, it was. Well, I mean, it was happening worldwide, but there was just this crazy influx of bands coming off of those British Isles at the time. I mean, if you include all the bands from that area, I mean, bands like Mama's Boys, which I love the Mama's Boys, but they were from Ireland, not the UK. So,
well, I mean, you know me, I write lists, and so I'm a novice at the new wave of British heavy metal. I know our friend Ronnie Dunsmore from Devastation fame and so forth. He's one of my. I know for a fact that he probably has close to everything that was ever released. I'm not sure, but I mean, can I just name some? Read my short list.
Yeah,
and you can tell me yay or nay, and then why they would be included in part of that. Angel Witch, Venom, A to Z, Vardis, Holocaust, Sweet Savage, Diamond Head, Raven, Def Leppard, or Iron Maiden.
Yeah, they're all that's all part of it. 4 bands right there.
So I guess I know more than I thought. Oh well.
Well, the thing that I appreciate the most about it, and then I'm going to let these guys go and let Scott start showing a bunch of stuff and letting those guys kind of duke it out. I did not realize that there even was a new wave of British heavy metal until I bought a cassette tape in probably 86 or 87, 88, somewhere around in there, by Diamond Head, and it was called Behold the Beginning. And I picked it up and realized that some of the Metallica songs I'd been hearing, I knew they were covers, and I knew they were covers of Diamond Head. I think they talked about that back then. But what I didn't realize was I'd never heard the originals, and I picked up Behold the Beginning, and therein lay my foundation for new wave of British heavy metal, even though I was listening to Iron Maiden religiously. They were probably my favorite band at the time. And so the thing that the new wave of British heavy metal did for me was it brought me Iron Maiden. It brought me Def Leppard. I think the first 3 Def Leppard albums are as good as any NWOBHM stuff out there. Some guys made it, some didn't. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But it also brought us Metallica. Am I right?
Yeah, Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax, they were all huge fans of that new wave of British heavy metal. And if you listen to the first Metallica record, it's nothing more than Diamond Head meets Motorhead. It's Diamond Head on speed, basically.
Well, and remember too, Lars was from Europe, and he had the benefit of bringing all that music with him to the States. and I'm sure that was a huge influence. Hey, let's play these. Nobody's ever heard these songs, you know. So I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
Well, and us Americans, I would say Metallica turned 90% of us on to the Diamond Heads and Blitzkrieg, and none of us.
Absolutely.
That
I
wasn't getting
discovered
radio
Diamond Head because of
culture, you know?
Metallica. There's no doubt about it. Just like you just said, it was Diamond Head's cover of "Am I Evil?" That like that's a cover song. That's friggin' awesome. Who's that? So
Yeah.
from there, I started discovering all these other bands. Yeah,
And I discovered
exactly.
Samson because of Iron Maiden, and I found
Yeah.
out that Bruce was in the band and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there'll be a lot of that in the stuff that I showed, stuff from other bands or guys from other bands, earlier stuff.
But yeah, I mean, we keep talking about Def Leppard. I mean, people nowadays wouldn't call them heavy metal, and I get it because they're not. But they started off that way. There's no doubt that this
Yeah.
here was a new wave of British heavy metal single. This is actually, as much as I'm showing this off like it's the greatest thing ever, this is actually it is a original Bludgeon Riffola record, but this is not the original cover. It's a slide in that someone made for it. But yeah, it is. I guess there's a ton of these out there, but not a ton of the covers. So regardless, that one and the one that Steve just showed.
Yeah.
And then there's a ton of these out there too. This is the Get Your Rocks Off and Me and My Wine single.
Yep.
Um,
Steve, what's on that one that you showed?
This one is Hello America and Wasted.
Okay, perfect.
that one.
Love it. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna get an
Shocking.
education.
Shocking that you have it too, Scott.
And then there's Bringing on the Heartbreak, and that's where the sound really changed because they met Mutt Lang and they started getting more commercial and more radio friendly, and songs like Bringing on the Heartbreak. Actually, and Me and My Wine didn't even make the album. Unfortunately, it's a great song. I like the B-side better than the A-side on that particular one. So,
Oh, and you got to
Yeah.
point out too, a new wave of British heavy metal. It was singles driven. It wasn't album driven. You know,
big time
a
single.
lot of the best new wave of British heavy metal bands either never put out a full length or the full length sucked. The only good songs were the songs from the singles. And I've got some. I'll show some comps later on of bands that just did 5 or 6 singles and EPs, and it's some of the best metal that's out there.
Well, I was going to say that
so
too,
good.
because I grabbed a few, but you were talking about the comps, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
comps were huge at the time. This one here being one of my favorites. I actually listened to it again today. I love this compilation, but this is comps from 1980.
Yep.
I mean, Brute Force, 1980. There was whoever, you don't think of that. You don't really think of Brutal or that kind of things from 80s. But yeah, I grabbed a few of those things too. Remember this one? Metal Explosion.
Oh yeah,
There's a-
I think I have that downstairs.
I've got both of those.
There's a ton of comps. This one here is not really necessarily just new wave of British heavy metal, but Double Hard. I
That
always
was
thought
my
it was cool
nickname in
because
college.
Well,
it's got a tour sticker on it for
steer clear.
Motorhead and
Don't
Girl
touch the
School.
merchandise.
Motorhead, Girl School touring together, and Michael Schenker and Crocus, and then Gillan tour dates. I thought that was kind of cool. Anyhow, yeah. So anyhow, are we showing? Are we talking still? What are we doing
No,
here?
I don't know what we're doing because I know nothing. I just
I don't understand how you, the biggest metalhead I know, doesn't like the new wave of British heavy metal. There's so much great stuff.
There are some good things. I'm not gonna lie, and Holocaust is one of my favorites, bar none. And it's because they have a sense of heaviness about them, but their songs make sense. But I just, I've had my own job since I was like an actual paycheck working job since I was 13. So my record purchasing was generally speaking a budget driven. And even as an older person, I am an older person now, not a young ute. It's still budget driven, and I see the pricing on some of this stuff. And I have Diamond Head, and I have Angel Witch, and I have some of those other bands. But if I got them at a moderate price, and then even when I do a little research where I go on say YouTube or something, I get a list of names from metal Rob Doom in Houston or Rodney Dunsmore in San Antonio, or even Fraser Dawson. That guy knows a ton. And where is he today? He should be blowing us up. But I pick and choose what I get from other people. But I just I guess I'm venturing down.
Well, and the
Other
new wave of
street.
British heavy metal stuff gets the singles. Some of the singles are
Now they are,
$1,000.
yeah, but they weren't
And
that
it's,
bad
I
back
mean,
then.
even in the '90s, they were expensive, but it's gotten to the point now where, I mean, and I'll give a great example. So you got "Lightning for the Nations" from Diamond Head,
Yep.
probably definitely one of the top 3 new wave of British heavy metal albums of all time. And 5 years ago, you could get an original pressing of this signed by all 4 band members for like $150.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're over $1,000. I mean, it's insane.
I had one of those for a minute.
Yeah.
Mine didn't have the signatures. It was just the white cover because there were 2 or 3 iterations for people.
Oh, there's so many. So there's the white cover with the white labels. There's the white cover with actual labels. You've got the Lightning for the Nations with that cover. You've got the reissues with this cover. Now there's a new reissue that's coming out.
Yeah, I had the white cover with the actual labels.
Yeah.
The one that I had.
This is one of the Diamond Head singles from '79 before they were signed on Media Records.
Well, and I guess the reason most of the white albums were signed is they would print 1,000 at a time, and they would sell them at their shows for $5 or $6, and they would sign them for everybody. So that's why most of them you see have at least one signature on them.
And I have the first Raven album, and the entire album is signed by the band. And from what I understand, it was the label that had them sign a bunch of them when they sold them. So they have tons of signed copies out there of the original.
On the subject of Diamond Head, Sean Harris is one of my favorite NWOBHM singers.
Yeah, I love Diamond Head, especially the early stuff. And their singles I like their singles better than their albums. So this single here is outstanding.
Yeah,
Way Too Long single.
And let's face it, there's so much music out there. I mean, it's easy to get lost in it, and it's easy to forget about it too. Especially when bands like Ozric Tentacles are putting out tons and tons of records.
God, there it is.
But look, I've never said I don't dislike the new wave of British heavy metal. I just think for me that they're hit and miss, and it's so hit and miss that I have to actually, like when I went to Houston this weekend, hung out with Rob Doom down there, and we were trading tapes kind of like we used to and listening to music back and forth. And normally when I go down there, he'll play something and I'll go, wow, what is this? And he'll say, well, it's a new wave of British heavy metal band. And then that'll spark my interest for the moment. And then that's how it happens for me.
Well, there's a lot of really bad new wave of British heavy metal too.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of
There's
a lot of singles that are $500-$600 singles where one song is good, the other song sucks. I mean, it gets really crazy, and a lot of the stuff that sucks is really valuable stuff. It's just
value and budget. That's kind of my mantra these days.
Yeah.
So what are the requirements to be considered a new wave of British heavy metal band?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of discussed it at the beginning. I mean, you had to be a new band from starting around 78 or so, or at least putting out their first albums around 78, 79, 80. Because I mean, a band like Raven were formed in 74, but they didn't get any music out until their first album came out in 81. Their first single came out in 79, I think. So that's why they're a new wave of British heavy metal band. Same thing with Saxon. What's the year where Saxon was formed? 76, 77 or something like that. And their first album came out
and most of them were bar bands until like 79, 80, and then you started seeing them putting out singles and albums. But
so Saxon would be considered a new wave band?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean they were one of the new bands that came out in the 80s,
Yeah, here you go. I got a few Saxons here. So Susie,
why wouldn't Judas Priest be considered a new wave?
Because Judas Priest were
their first album was in 76.
And they were in the first wave.
Oh, so they were in the first wave. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
They were in that. They were lumped in with Sabbath, Sabbath and Priest. Priest's first album was 74, but they'd been around since 69.
Yeah.
So you've got all that.
Like Motorhead's another one because Motorhead didn't come out. Their first album wasn't technically till 79, but they've always been considered part of that first wave because they were playing big shows in 70, 76, 77. So they were already kind of an inspiration for all the new wave of British heavy metal bands. So they were never considered part of that movement, Yeah,
I always considered them part of the first wave as well.
Yeah,
but I grabbed a few of the early Saxon singles as well.
Princess of the Night.
Princess of the Dawn. It's like the night, and rather Princess of the Dawn. That's accept.
That's
Yeah.
Susie, hold on. But yeah, a lot of it was singles based.
Wheels of Steel promo.
Wheels of Steel Japan.
And then Susie Hold On and Judgment Day.
Strangers in the Night. Let's see what else. I didn't grab them all. I just grabbed a few. Oh, and here's a Wheels of Steel from UK.
Yeah, we've had Nigel from Saxon on the show a couple times.
Couple times, yeah. He's so nice, man. I really like him.
Such a great dude.
But yeah, Saxon were always one. But there was a lot of like bands that didn't release.
I believe his
release,
birthday is today.
Is it?
I think so. Hang on. Hold on. Yep, it is. Let's see. When did I?
I'm trying to keep these in order so I can come back.
Yep.
Oops.
Today.
Sorry.
I believe
Forgot to
he
turn my
turned
phone
70 today. Well, and
70.
for those of you that are wanting to get into the new wave of British heavy metal and you want to find out more about it, the place that I would recommend you start, if you want to collect something cool but still is accessible, it'll cost you a few bucks. NWOBHM 79, you can pick this up on vinyl, cassette, or CD. It's a little hard to find, but you can get one.
What you got there, Steve? Sorry.
So I've got a few other comps too. This is Rare Singles. There's 2 of them. The first one's a lot better than this one. This one's only got a few good songs, but I've got New Wave of British Heavy Metal Thunder, which is again, it's all the singles from these are the bigger bands. So you got Samson Girl School, Cloven Hoof, Tigers, and then I've also got this box set, which is Winds of Time, 79 to 85. So there's a lot of really good comps out there.
Carcass knows what this is.
You're welcome, Hair Metal Rob.
So
Hey, you know, is that comp that you just showed, the NWOBHM with the gray and pink and whatever, that was a Metal Blade thing, wasn't it, or an Enigma?
Yeah, it came out years later. Hang on.
It was reissued by the Metal Blade, I believe. Yeah.
Came out in 90.
Yeah, but that is a good way. If you just want to delve into it, that's probably your least expensive way to get kind of a broad overview of what it was all about.
And it's got Diamond Head, Sweet.
What was that guy's name? The drummer from Samson?
Thunderstick.
Thundersticks,
yeah. Sweet Savage, Saxon White, Spirit Raven, Parallax, Weapons, Samson, Hollow Ground, Girl School, Witchfind. I mean, Iron Maiden, Angel Witch, Holocaust, Vardis. I mean, this is a great.
Oh, Witchfind?
Yep, this is a great start. Venom, Gaskin, Tigers of Pantang. Yeah, it's great.
I love Witchfind. I got Witchfind right here.
I got Witchfind single there.
That one you have, Scott, is awesome.
I never liked it. I bought it. I tracked an original down, got it. I didn't think it was that
Which
great.
one? Of the first or of the second one?
Oh, the Witchfind. No, the first one.
Head one.
This one's a little different. It's kind of doomy. I really dig this one.
What's their second album called, Steve? Because the second album is the one I like the best, and I can't remember the name at the top of my head.
Stage Fright. This is the second one.
Yeah, that's the one. No, okay, that's the second one. That's the one. I don't have it, but I've got a copy coming. So, because I've just been in this kick for. Let me throw a wrench in and see what you guys think of this. How about this band? New Wave of British Heavy Metal or no?
See, I don't know. You mentioned them today when we were talking on the phone, and I wouldn't have considered it that. But I also haven't heard a ton of it because it didn't really do a whole lot for me, honestly.
Gillen the band?
Yeah.
Man, Gillen the band, I love Gillen. Now, there's a difference between Gillen the band, which has this particular logo on it,
and the Ian Gillan band,
and the Ian Gillan band, which was something he did after leaving Purple. That was
it was like jazz fusion.
Jazz fusion. This was him and John McCoy, who was a big name in the New Wave of British Heavy Metal movement, who were writing all the material. And then you had what's the guitar player's name? He went on to play with Maiden. So it was Bernie Torme, and then who's the guy who prances around on stage with Maiden?
Oh, Yannick.
Yannick Gears.
Yannick Gears was one of the guitar players in here as well. But then you got Mick Underwood in this band. So you got a bunch of New Wave of British Heavy Metal staples in this Gillen.
Oh, speaking of Yannick Gears.
White Spirit. Yep, that was one of his other bands.
Album, which is fantastic.
That is a really good album. But Gillen the band, I've always considered, I mean, that was the sound. They had that sound going on. They did some Deep Purple bluesy stuff as well. And Gillen was always writing, so they did a lot of silly stuff. But these guys I probably have like 30 singles from them just from the 80s and the late 70s. So I mean, I just pulled the first handful of them out of the batch. But I've always considered them a British heavy metal band. I'm kind of curious if Metal Theologian, if you're still watching, what do you think? Is Gillen considered a new wave of British heavy metal band? Let me throw one more at you. How about Wild Horses? Were they a new wave of British heavy metal band?
Don't know anything about them. Hey, I want to answer Mark's question. I want to see what you guys think.
What do you
agree with this or no?
No.
No.
Who is?
I would say Iron Maiden, Diamond Head, and maybe Saxon.
I don't think there was such a big three. I don't think there was a big three because there was only two bands that broke out and were like megastars, Def Leppard and who went, which is kind of a funny thing because it actually shows the split in sound. So you got Def Leppard, who were this straightforward metal band and split off and started going more and more commercial, more and more poppy. So they were in the pop metal. Then you have Iron Maiden, who kind of started off with that new wave of British heavy metal sound that was a mix of metal with some punk influences, and they got heavier and heavier. And then with the third album, Number of the Beast, there was a very distinct difference in sound. It was very much a new sound in heavy metal, which is why Metal Theologian says it ended in '83. Also, stuff like Kill 'Em All came out then. So it was a split in sound, but both those bands came from that same new wave of British heavy metal movement. I don't think any other band got that big though.
So part of my not issue per se, but part of my misunderstanding with the genre of the new wave of British heavy metal sound is that you have Def Leppard and then you have Venom,
right?
And they're all shoehorned into the same spot. And
right.
I mean, to me,
that's why I say it's not a sound. That's why I said it's a movement, not a sound.
I've never, and I'm on the outside. I've never considered any of Def Leppard's albums to be new wave of British heavy metal. They had changed their sound too much by the first album. For me, it's the singles that are that new wave of British heavy metal sound. Whereas by the time their first album was already way more produced than anything that was coming out from the new wave of British heavy metal bands.
I don't know. There was a lot of stuff. Praying Mantis. There was a lot of bands that had that kind of more polished sound that was coming out at that time. But yeah, Def Leppard definitely went the more commercial route.
And that's another great example too, because Praying Mantis is more of a prog metal.
How about
band,
this one?
You know?
There's another one that was.
Yep.
There's another one that was way more commercial, and it has a Def Leppard connection as well. Obviously, Phil Collins was in this band, but then also you had the singer who went on to be in LA Guns, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I brought that one too.
But they were definitely came out of that same new wave of British heavy metal movement of the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, Hollywood. The song "Hollywood Tease" ended up on the first LA Guns album. Great song.
Oh, and this band here is made up of a couple of new guys, but it's also a couple of veterans in this band. So you've got, do you know this band, John?
I heard of them.
So it's Brian Robertson from Thin Lizzy.
Okay.
And what's his name? It's Jimmy Bain. Jimmy Bain from Rainbow.
Oh,
after he was given the left footed fellowship out of Rainbow, the two of those guys apparently were roommates and formed this band. And funny thing is, this single we did that autograph thing a week or two ago, and this one is actually signed by Jimmy Bain, and he was selling this on eBay when I bought it, and so I bought it from him, and I realized who it was that was selling it. I'm like, dude, will you sign it for me? And he's like, sure, and he sent it to me, signed. There it is, and then he died like a few months later. It's like weird. Anyhow, that's a side story. Let me grab another band. Just keep showing them off since we're. How about? Oh, yeah, you go. Grim Reaper. That's one of the ones I was going to grab next. How about this band?
Oh, here you go, Scott.
Yep.
I grabbed a couple, and I also grabbed their debut as well.
Album. I think this was their first single. Came out in I think it was. I can't remember. I can't see the year. It's too small. It was either 78 or 79. The first Girls' School single. But I mean, everybody used to call them the female version of Motorhead.
Yeah, their 78 and 79 singles are getting ridiculous. They're getting to be $40-$50.
I think I got it. I don't know. This might be one of the other ones, like the original Emergency.
Yeah, I pulled out Come On, Let's Go, and then the Wildlife EP.
Nothing to Lose. But anyhow, Girl School were they kind of embodied. If you're going to say there was a sound, they kind of embodied that sound because they took the heavy metal and mixed it with a punk influence, kind of like the first couple Maiden albums or bands like Tank. Another
Oh yeah.
great band
See,
from
I
that
like
area.
Tank. See, now that you've clarified, because I do think it's more of a movement than a sound. And that's why the waters are so muddied
I
with
think this
where
is
we
one
can.
of the best albums of the '80s myself.
I have that one with the
This is
single
so
in it.
good. So I never hear anybody talk about this record. It's so good.
I
It
grabbed
is
a couple
great.
of.
It's great.
So I have passed on that so many times because I don't know anything about it. I have a flexi disc of that Grim Reaper up there. So
This
Yeah,
is the
this is a flexi disc.
That's the only way it
hold
came.
on. That Tank, I need to grab that. I got to write
this is
that.
There's
An
been a bunch of
RCA.
reissues. You can get it for like $20, and
What's
it's
it called?
worth having.
Filth Hounds from Hades.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so good.
This is a promo single, U.S. promo single, Ebony / RCA of "The Show Must Go On" from Grim Reaper.
Wow.
But
So
yeah, this one was
so now you're in my you've moved over to my wheelhouse. You've moved away from bands like Girl and whatever, and now you're into more of a heavy metal thing that I can relate to.
Well, Grim Reaper is a great example of what new wave of British heavy metal is because their singles are the best thing that they released. This album is pretty good, and with each album after this, they progressively got worse and worse.
Right.
But I mean, unfortunately, that's the way a lot of the new wave of British heavy metal bands are. And then this one's actually the Ebony pressing as opposed to the
RCA pressing. Yeah, the RCA pressing was US and the Ebony was UK. But yeah, this what you got there? What you got there?
Thank
Rob?
goodness I gave that stack to Rob. Good
No, I
grief.
got from Carcass after we first met. We were still just dating at the time. And I looked on his shelf and he had this stack of CDs and it said NWOBHM demo tapes, NWOBHM volume 1, 2, 3, 4 through 6. And I was like, I have to have those. And they're very well done compilations of just, it's what you guys are talking about. It's all the singles, it's all the EPs. I mean, this one's got Satan, Savage, Jaguar, Aurora, Chevy, Fist, Persian Risk, Blitzkrieg, A to Z. I mean, there's 18 tracks just on this one. So
that's a labor of, by the way, we've said his name several times, but that's a labor of love from Mr. Rodney Dunsmore. He put those together from his personal private collection.
Well, and that's what these are. Each of these are 3 CDs full of just the singles and the A and B sides of their singles.
Now, Steve, where did those come from? Is that a series?
So this one's pretty new. This one is Cherry Red Records. It's a UK label. This is from 2018.
What are they called?
New Wave of British Heavy Metal, Winds of Time, and New Wave of British Heavy Metal, Thunder. And they're both really killer, really good quality. This one, the rare singles, has a lot. Like I said, most of these bands you've never heard of, but on these CDs, there's maybe 3 singles that are really good, and the rest of it kind of sucks. You know, which is why a lot of them are so rare.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of this that's no good either. I have not listened all the way through all of these, but yeah,
I got a few in here that are like
Dick Smith band. I mean,
yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, what's cool about these is it's kind of like that. So when you look at the actual CDs, it's got all of the covers from the actual singles that are on the CD. So
yeah, a lot of these I've never even heard of, like Elixir and Scarab.
Those are both great. I should have pulled that. I have the Scarab and the Elixir. I have this reissues of the singles for those.
Lia Drive. Yeah, I need to get back into those. But yeah, the Carcass hooked me up with those. He was able to live without them.
This is my
Dick Smith band is good. Okay, cool.
This is one of my all-time favorite bands. Although they too were on the road to becoming really big, and then they signed with a major label, and the major label screwed them up in a royal way.
Is it going to be Raven?
Of course it is.
Scott.
Steve
But
with
this is their first single.
Yeah,
and their first and second singles. But there's this one never had a sleeve on it that I know of. Crash Bang Wallop 7-inch, the original one. The Break the Chain.
This is the one that Scott Waters sent me.
So Neat Records, were they hatched out of the
Oh yeah.
movement?
Yeah, they were
were
one of the biggest
Or
they were
was-
one of the big
were
ones.
they
Yep.
pre-existing and they just caught fire with all these other bands, or did they basically?
I think they were very,
born of
very
fire.
small. I remember I read they actually have a book out now, which I haven't read. I wish, but I mean, what I know is they were a very small label, and they basically that's the book I'm talking about. And they started off doing. I mean, if you like Raven's first album was recorded live in their studio, basically.
So
in
they
their
had a
home
studio and a production company where they put the
Yeah.
stuff out.
Yep.
Well, in their first release, if I remember correctly, it was Tigers of Pantang. So, I mean, they started off with new wave of British heavy metal, and they kind of carried the torch well into the '80s. They were still
That's
releasing really killer singles through the '80s.
This was one of the early singles from
Yeah, there you
Neat
go.
Records. There's the neat logo on the back with the thumbs up or down, depending on if you like it or not, I guess. But yeah, that's their first single. This is their second single, which is not even on that label. They signed MCA.
Don't forget your favorite, Love Potion #9.
I didn't pull that one because I didn't go that deep into it, but I have that one.
I actually like Stormlands better, obviously, than Love Potion, but
I did pull some of their early singles just because Euthanasia.
See, I dig that band too. So I completely whiffed on when I was making my list, but no, I like Tigers. I think they're great. I think
they did the same thing as Raven. They had some killer albums, and then they got signed at, was it MCA, where they put out that basically AOR album with the tiger in the cage on the cover. That's terrible.
That was, but by that time it was their third album, and they have since, like Raven, redeemed themselves and put out some killer albums that nobody knows about. So
yeah.
Oh, I forgot I had this in there since we talked about them earlier. I'll just show it quick.
Yeah.
Oh,
the tank.
Yeah,
this is my newest one. I just got this one in a couple weeks ago. Let's Go from Vardis.
Dude, that thing rips. I actually have that.
I grabbed them too.
Me. I'm a NWOBHM honk, just like you guys.
You're the NWOBHM king.
Now, Vardis are weird because even back then I considered them more. They kind of have a Foghat sound, kind of or Status Quo, kind of like the boogie rock, the heavy boogie rock.
But they've got
some of the bands are definitely 70s steeped, and these guys were definitely that way. But they've got a lot of singles, man. I just got a handful of them here.
But they have kind of a thrashy vibe to them, also.
I love this single. You got this one, Steve?
It depends on it depends on the single though, because some of them are super heavy, some of them are more melodic. He was a different cat.
Do you have this one, Steve?
No, this is the only single I have. I have the first two albums and then this single.
Did I send you that one?
No, I bought this one, and this is so it's the single for Let's Go, but it also came with a freebie.
It's got a 100 miles per hour single in it.
Yeah, the 100 miles per hour, which was I think that was their first single, was 100 miles per hour.
Anyhow, this one here that I was talking about, they do a cover of Silver Machine by Hawkwind. So it's a cool one.
And of course, one of my favorites, Buried Alive in Blitzkrieg.
Nice. I don't have that one.
That's a real.
You got some of the more obscure ones there to show? Like this?
I have some Zero. I brought a couple of more obscure 7-inches. So I brought Berlin.
That's a good one too.
Which I really like. I didn't like their album, but all their singles were good. And then this one kind of comes in under the right at the end of New Wave British Heavy Metal, and their album didn't come out till like '85. But Valhalla from Desolation Angels. This is another band where the single is both songs are killer and the album is just okay.
What about Whitesnake? Someone's asking about Whitesnake. Are they too late?
No, they were formed in the 70s.
Yeah, they were like 76. 76
and they had by 78 or 70, 79, they already had like multiple albums out and were playing stadiums.
Yeah, I think the first Whitesnake was 76. No, it's not an original Blitzkrieg, Aaron. I wish it was. I actually have an original of the 7-inch, but it's in a paper sleeve. I don't have an original jacket for it.
Man, I had that one too, and I think I let it go.
And then, of course, you can't not list Satan.
That's right.
Hey, you guys.
Excuse me. This one was actually released. This "Oh Baby" single, which this song was actually on a couple comps from back then too. But there was two pressings of this. This is a second pressing, and you can tell because it's got this big giant sticker-looking thing on there. Yeah, it's not a hype sticker. It's actually printed. But it's talking about Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden singing on one of the tracks.
Stop the show! Stop the show! Stop the show! My son is watching.
Oh,
Yay.
but yeah, this is
Continue the show.
definitely more melodic. I don't know if Steve, you got this one?
No, it's on one of my comps.
Yeah, it is. It's actually on this one, I think. The one I just showed earlier. Where is it?
I'm gonna look. Stand by.
I don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's on this one. I think. Yep, Zero Hold On is on this one. On the Brute Force comp.
Yeah, I have that.
Funny thing, the Raven song on here is Let It Rip, which is a song that didn't even make any of the first three albums.
Raven doesn't get enough credit for how fast they were in 19. I mean, they were borderline thrash when they came. I mean, they were so fast. And
borderline, I would consider them a thrash band more than a new wave band.
And then they kind of slowed down a little bit, and then they sped up again later on. But they were a lot faster than most of the other new wave of British heavy metal bands. Another favorite of mine, though, is Tokyo Blade.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This one, and then for you guys that are like Tokyo Blade, so High Roller released this. It's called Genghis Khan Killers. And it's all their stuff from 78 and 79. So they were originally called Killers and then Genghis Khan. And then they changed their name to Tokyo Blade. But this is all their late 70s singles. And these are just as good as anything else that they released in the 80s. Really worth grabbing.
Here's the envelope that the Grim Reaper Flexi came in.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
There's something in there too. Hang on.
Yeah, it should have came with a little. I think I've got it on the back of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only have the single. I don't have the other stuff. I wish.
Yeah, there's like a little order form. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I've heard stories about the guys. Or was it Steve Grimmett was the singer?
Yes, he recently passed away, like just last year.
I've heard some really cool stories about him. Like fans would send him letters because you would order stuff directly from his family early on, and he would if he liked you, he would send you like a copy of the demo on cassette, and he was a really cool guy like that.
That's pretty cool. I never knew that.
And here's one you can get for relatively cheap. You can get this one for under $20, but Burn This Town from Battle Axe, which is just a killer album.
I just grabbed that on CD.
Amazing artwork, as you can tell.
Yes. Well, and that was one of the coolest things was the bad artwork, I think.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I got that one. And actually, so Jameson Raid is...
what is that?
Steve knows what that is.
I can't see it. That's all. It's just a little...
No, it's the Mithra. Yeah, that's really good.
Do you have it?
No, I have a High Roller comp with all of their stuff on it.
Do you have it, Scott?
No, it's on my list.
Okay, I'll set it aside.
So there's the Jameson Raid single, but this is another. So Jameson Raid was one of the early new wave of British heavy metal bands. Most of their stuff was 78 and 79, and this is a collection of their EPs. So High Roller is one of the best out there right now. Because another thing about the original pressings of these 7-inches is a lot of them sound like shit. They were just cheaply pressed. So a lot of the High Roller reissues that have been coming out and the comps that they've been putting together just sound amazing. And it's really, if you're getting into new wave of British heavy metal, I would definitely check out some of the High Roller releases. Yeah,
the Satan stuff were really good. Satan was a great band. I think their big mistake was calling themselves Satan. I mean, they were just I don't know why, because Venom was pretty evil, whereas Satan really wasn't. But can you pick a worse name for a band that if you're trying to sell records?
Well, look at Demon. They called themselves Demon, and they weren't that heavy at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that yesterday, and it just was like, what?
How about this one?
Well, and Satan tried to change their name. Didn't they change it to Pariah for a while? Was it Pariah?
Excuse me.
Yeah, it was a little different lineup. I think the singer was gone, or something like that. Because I had that Pariah record too.
Yeah, I've got the CD of it. I don't have the Fugitive.
Yeah,
just making sure I don't have anything
else. A one-off band, as I recall, just one single. I dig it. It is more melodic. And then how about this one? Tuberk.
Yeah, I
never
don't know
heard of it.
One of the neat bands. But I like
Neat.
this one a lot. The song is if you like the early Def Leppard stuff, you probably dig this. It's got that sound. It's just a personal favorite.
What, Tobruk? Does anybody know where Tobruk is?
Never heard of it.
It was a fuel depot in the desert that got bombed, and the Desert Fox Rommel tried to protect it. The British succeeded in blowing it up. Tobruk. It's a movie.
You're smarter than me.
Check it out.
Gaskin?
Yeah, Gaskin's good.
Oh man, we know Paul Gaskin.
Quartz?
Yeah, Quartz is fantastic.
Oh yeah, they're great. See, I
Have you
guess
ever
I
seen
know
any-
more than about this stuff than I lead on, I suppose.
Yeah,
Because I know all those bands.
Metal for Mothers was good. I had both of those. I might still have them over there. I'm not sure.
This is one of my favorites that doesn't make a lot of the lists, but more.
That's funny because I was
Oh
just
yeah,
that was
Warhead. I have that. That's a good one.
This
That
is
was
the
my next one
yeah,
up.
that's the first album. This is the second one, and then he went
Yeah.
on to play in Mammoth after this. But man, these two albums are both fantastic, and it's
They
a
released a
different
single-
sound. It's definitely more melodic than most of the other new wave of British heavy metal stuff out there.
And that album that you have is slightly heavier than the first album, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I like
But
them
they're
both. Though.
They're both good. I like them both. But there actually was a single release too. I ordered it. I found somebody who had a copy, ordered it 2 months ago, and it still hasn't arrived yet. So I'm assuming it's never going to get here. But we'll see. Anybody saying show this?
Yeah, I was about to show it. I got it right here.
That's the first band that I named off the top of my list was Angel Witch.
Angel Witch, yeah. Their singles are great.
Yeah, Angel
That
Witch.
album's really good.
Yeah. Actually, I like their first 3 albums or so. I liked, but after
don't-
that, they kind of.
I don't know Crying Steel,
Yeah, neither do I.
so I
What
couldn't
about
tell
this
you.
one, Scott? The Mighty Cloven Hoof.
Cloven Hoof. Yep.
I was going to grab their EP, but I can't find it. It's in here somewhere. But their first full length is fantastic.
Now, as a band who I like their newer stuff better than their old stuff. Those
I
last
don't
two
know,
albums,
man. Their EP and this album are my favorites. From
Well,
them.
and you know partly the reason for that, Scott.
George Call.
Of course.
The guy's a powerhouse vocalist.
He can make
He's
any
freaking
band.
Fantastic.
He can make any band. He could make Faith Bomb sound better. I mean,
Oh,
come on.
Lord.
These are
Yeah.
cool comps too. This is the Friday Rock Show from the BBC. There's 2 of them. I only grabbed this one because it was behind me, but it's got the full BBC sets from
man.
Diamond Head, Girl School, Raven, Vardis, Black Axe, Moore, and Sweet Savage. Actually, we forgot to talk about Sweet Savage. I should have pulled that.
I actually
Sweet
saw
Savage is
copies
where,
of that at Sound
wait, wait.
Exchange in Houston.
What? Are you reading this?
Is that Swiper?
My
I
dad
just-
played
Spider.
Angel
My
Witch.
dad played with
Yeah.
Angel Witch. I need to know more.
Swiper.
No, Spider.
Spider.
Swipe
Okay.
or no swiping.
Spider. Yeah, they're much like like Vardis in that they're more of a a hard rock, definitely 70s based band. I like them a lot, but back then back in the late 70s, early 80s, there wasn't really a big distinction between hard rock and heavy metal. They were one and the same. But
So I got a few more obscure LPs, but these are some of my favorite new wave of British heavy metal releases. The first one is actually Bit Bop Boom, John's one of his favorite new wave of British heavy metal bands, but Crucifixion. And this is after the Fox. This is a comp with everything that they released. They were another single and EPs band. They never had a full length album. So High Roller put this together, but just really killer new wave of British heavy metal, just straight up metal with these guys.
I made a list like yours too. I sat there watching TV with my wife one night and I just started writing down bands that were coming to my mind.
I'm making a list
So.
of crap to buy. I'm
Well, let me show you one here. This one I pulled just for you, Rob. This album is killer. It was a blind buy. It was High Roller, or is it? Yeah, it was High Roller. This was originally released on Warner, but this is Ethel the Frog,
Yep.
and this is
Really?
basically new wave of British heavy metal mixed with ZZ Top. I mean, it's straight up Texas boogie with new wave of British heavy metal backbeat to it.
Weird. What's the name of the album?
It's I think it's just Ethel the Frog.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check that out. I've
Originals
heard of it.
aren't, you can get an original for like 30 or 40 bucks, but the reissues are worth grabbing. It sounds fantastic.
Okay.
But I was blown away. The one downside is there's a cover of Eleanor Rigby that's the first song on the album, which is ridiculous. But the rest of the album is 10 out of 10. You don't like it, Aaron? I think it's awesome. I love the Texas boogie on it.
How about Fastway?
I never really thought of them as new wave of British heavy metal.
To me, that
Me
was
either.
like, they were lumped in with all the 80s metal bands. Now, I don't mean that in a negative way, but like Keel and Fastway and all that stuff, that was just traditional metal to me.
Right, but
80s
Fastway
metal.
came out in what 1980, 81. They started recording. Pete Way and Fast Eddie Clark started recording together, and right after he left Motorhead, and then of course Pete Way left to do the Aussie thing, and then the first 1983, I think, the first Fastway finally came out. So they're a UK band, heavy metal, came out right at that time.
I think the best Fastway is the soundtrack.
Oh,
I
yeah,
like the soundtrack.
Trick or Treat. Oh my gosh, I love that thing.
Yeah. That and their debut, I could live without the rest of their albums. So another one that this is another blind buy, and I guess originals of this go for crazy money, but this is a band called Bloodshot Eyes. It's kind of an interesting band. It's basically the guitar player. It has like a 60s rock and roll sound to the tone and everything of his guitar, but it's got a real heavy drum and bass line behind it to give it that new wave of British heavy metal sound. But this was a real cool one that I've been listening to quite a bit for the last, I don't know, I bought it like 6 months ago and I still pull it out pretty regularly.
How about this one? Anybody know this band? And it's going to be hard because you're not going to be able to see it, but this is the Soundhouse tapes from Praying Mantis.
Oh, I didn't know they did Soundhouse.
Oh, that's weird. I have one called the Soundhouse tape.
Yeah, I know. We're getting there.
Y'all want to see it?
Praying Mantis.
I don't have any of their singles. I love that album, though.
I love their art, man, especially this.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, I'm just a big fan of his art to begin with, so everything he's done is fantastic. But yeah, they had a lot of singles too, Praying Mantis did, but they weren't very heavy. They were more of a proggy band, in my opinion.
And there were a weird one too, because didn't their debut come out in Japan only?
Yes.
Some of that effect, yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the band that
Yes, they did, David.
the band that you're talking about, this one, right?
Oh, weird. Wait, what? Are we going to show Maiden singles now? Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
I grabbed a couple of the early ones. This is actually a original pressing. This is actually a reissue.
I was going to, but I thought it was too obvious, and I knew Rob was going to have his ace in the hole, so I just left the Maiden in the box.
I'm going to flex on all you suckers.
Yeah, but you sold one of your children to get it.
That's pretty much true. Well, actually, I'll tell the story.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Scott, so you showed the Running Free, right? I ended up, I've got an original of one of those, which I'm very proud of. It's hanging on the wall, which is why you're not seeing it. I've also got Purgatory. It's hanging up there. And then I've got two more that are pretty early that I can't remember what they are. Scott, do you happen to have the Purgatory?
I do. Give me 5 seconds. I can go grab it.
Yeah, man,
I'll be right back.
That might be my single favorite outside of, oh my gosh, outside of Peace of Mind. That might be my absolute favorite. Derek Riggs Iron Maiden artwork is the cover of the Purgatory single with the half devil head and whatever it is. That is the freaking coolest thing.
I painted this on somebody's jacket in high school.
That. When I was
painted this on someone's jacket. I painted Aces High on someone's jacket. I painted I painted a bunch of jackets when I was in high school.
The Aces High single is still my all-time favorite album cover.
Man, Aces High is pretty great. Yeah, with him in the plane. That's pretty. What does this say?
What does what say?
Oh, sorry. I was trying. My camera is between me and the comments, and so sometimes I can't read them.
Yeah, he said he's having his son pull the Ethel the Frog record. I want to show one more though before you show yours though, because this is my all-time favorite new British heavy metal album, and it's not one that people are familiar with. It's a band called Ritual, and the album is Widow. And they don't really sound like any other band. It's almost like a doomy. He's got like it's almost a precursor to what Danzig became 10 years later. He's got kind of a Danzig sound to his voice, and the way he does his melodies is real similar. But this is just really killer doom metal. Before doom metal was really a thing, just a fantastic album. And actually, a lot of people they had to put Ritual right here because for years everybody thought the name of the band was Widow because the original pressings don't say the band's name on it; it just says Widow. But this album's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's just really slow, really heavy, and just really killer vocals. There's almost like an early goth, like the Grade 45, the early goth sound from the late 70s, early 80s mixed in here a little bit too. But it's bass driven. So instead of a galloping guitar, there's a galloping bass in the background. And the guitar just kind of does effects over the top of it. And it gives it a really eerie sound. But definitely worth checking out.
I found another single I was playing today too.
I almost pulled that one out. I got that one right behind me.
I think this was like
that was a little later though.
Yeah, this is 83 or something like that. But there was like 2 or 3 before this one, right? Because no, there was 2 because this is 3. So it was Metal Killers 2, Metal Killers 3. But yeah, I mean, Motorhead, Tank, Girl School, Hawkwind, Thor, which that's a weird one because how'd that get on there?
Yeah.
But, anyhow, Jaguar and Wendy O. Williams, Bump and Grind.
And I almost pulled like Blind Fury and Robespierre, but those were all like 84, 85 when their first album came out. So I decided not to pull them.
Yeah, I pulled the record.
All right.
Go ahead. We're already over an hour.
Woo!
We got a drum roll.
I know. So, as some of you that watch the show know, I am a CD guy through and through. I had a huge record collection. Well, for me, it was huge. It's not anything like what these guys have, but I had a couple thousand records, a lot of NWOBHM stuff, a lot of early metal, and I've shrunk that down to just a couple hundred records and sold or traded or gave away tons and tons of stuff because I'm CD guy. Well, one of the things that made the cut that I kept, along with, Sabbath and Maiden and Kiss and Priest and ZZ Top and a bunch of stuff like that, were my Maiden records. But when I was at the height of collecting years ago, I felt like my holy grails were an original leather pressing, Diamond Head Lightning to the Nations with the white cover. I got one of those. I don't have it anymore. A Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love on leather records. I ended up getting a second pressing of that, but I was very happy to have it. I don't have it anymore. But the holy grail of holy grails that I was looking for ended up in a message on Facebook one day, and a guy posted up that he was going to be selling his Iron Maiden Soundhouse tapes to finance a trip that he needed to go on for his daughter. I feel guilty because I can't remember the guy's name. I had a piece of paper with it to remind me, and I don't think it's in the box. I don't know what I've done with it. It's probably in the box in the closet. Anyway, so a couple people saw us talking. They chimed in and said, "Hey, I've seen this thing. It's legit. It's actually real. So you know what you're getting." Well, I got it for $500, which was expensive. They're going for double and triple that now. But there it is. There's an original. Ring wear and all. Original 79. I did so much research on this, making sure that it was legit. This appeared on, I don't know if it was on the show on TV. I don't know if it was televised, but the guy took this to Antiques Roadshow and they offered him $300 for it. And so I'm glad that he didn't sell it. But as soon as I got this thing, maybe a couple of months later in Iron Maiden's fan club magazine, and I'm very proud that it's VG, maybe VG plus, because that helps lend to the credibility that it's old and been played. Iron Maiden's fan club came out with a big 2 or 3 page article, or 3 or 4, I don't remember, about how to know if your Soundhouse tapes is real. And so I started checking off the blocks, man. So that's my holy grail that I actually still have, along with, some Blue Label Kiss stuff and some different things like that. But this is the one. Carcass will not go to my funeral, or Scott. When everybody's at the funeral, they will be pawing through the closet looking for this in the lockbox. Am I right?
No, I'm gonna put it in your grave with
casket.
you. Yep.
No way,
So-
man. Pass it around and enjoy it.
So
And
the
if
funny thing about that, so I think it was like 2006 or 7, they re-released the Iron Maiden stuff on CD. There, what do they call them? The mini LPs.
Yeah.
And if you collected all of them, you could send in the UPCs and get an official CD of the Roundhouse tapes. And those CDs now go for like $1,500 just for the CDs, because nobody, barely anybody collected them all and sent in the UPCs to get them. And they go for just as much as the actual 7 inches do now.
Damn it! I'm gonna have to get that. No, this thing. Something happens to me, pass it around, enjoy it. And also, if you come to my house, I will play it for you. I absolutely will play it.
I was there. You played it.
Yep. Played it for you. Played it for Big Mike Richardson. Yeah. Played it for Carcass.
So before we cut out, I did want to say, in the beginning of the show, I showed those 2 U.S. magazines proclaiming that metal was dead. Here's a magazine from 1980 that's proclaiming heavy metal. The Goon Squad is back. Back from the dead. It never died.
Yeah.
But they claimed it died. But
I gotta say, Cream was one of the most ridiculous magazines ever, though, because they would literally have Rock is Dead, and then the very next month, the Rebirth. You know what I mean? They were one of the most ridiculous magazines of the era.
But they do have some of those bands in there. I mean, they've got Saxons in here. Riot was a U.S. band, but they were definitely a honorary member of the New Wave of British Heavy Metal. They were playing with all those bands over there. So was Twisted Sister.
I was surprised. I was looking something up. How many of those bands played with April Wine, of all bands? A lot of those bands were touring with April Wine back then.
And Crocus was part of that movement too, even though they weren't from there.
Hey, so let's do a parting shot question before we wrap up. So in Carcass's case, I will not relegate him to NWOBHM stuff, but for you guys, what NWOBHM grail, or in Carcass's case, what grail are you still looking for your collection that you're gonna seek out and find?
For me, it's a complete Def Leppard EP. I want the EP with the jacket, but the jackets are impossible to find these days.
You threw me off guard because I can't even think now. There's a bunch of them, but that Maiden one is one of them. I'd love to have the Soundhouse tapes.
Read that one, Carcass.
Yeah.
I'll do it now if you want.
He'll just have to keep tuning in on Friday.
That's right.
After the Metal Rob Show.
Dallas Radio. It is 5:00. You know what that means. It is time once again for the Metal Rob Show. Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
I'd like to get some of the old. I'd like to get some of the old Venom singles back too, but those sell for so much crazy prices these days. I used to have a bunch of them. I don't have any of those anymore.
Steve, I got distracted. What was the one you said? I'm sorry.
The Def Leppard EP with the little cat on the cover.
Yeah, Carcass, what are you looking for?
You know what?
Because you've got everything, man. You have
I'm not really looking for anything. I finally found a Robin Trower Bridge of Sighs Japanese pressing that was worth its salt. I mean, even though the OB strips were always missing, they were always hammered because they got played a lot. But I found a pristine copy from a very kind fellow over in Tokyo, and he packaged it well. The thing came and it arrived great. I don't know. I've got some obscure Osric stuff that I've been looking for. I've got an Ashra Temple original die cut fold out thing that's worth a ton of cash that I'd been looking for a while. I probably it's not really a Grail thing, but if I could find a quality copy. Oh, and thanks, Steve-O, for sending the YouTube Joshua Tree. I don't know why that was such a hard one to find, but nobody had it, and if I saw it, it was just trashed. But
Well,
I'm
and the
looking
reissues
for-
don't sound that good, so
No, they don't. But I'm looking for a Razor Violent Restitution on original pressing. I think it was on Steam Hammer or something, but I wouldn't mind having one of those. But other than that, man, when I go shopping, people
was that
always
on?
say,
I think that was on Bonsai too. You may be able to find Bonsai easier. Find it on Bonsai a little easier.
yeah, and I don't mind paying the shipping from Canada, which is just redonkulous. But people ask me when I go up to pay for stuff, they say, "Did you find what you're looking for?" Well, I didn't know I was looking for it till I found it.
Right.
So that's the way I shop.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
There's some bonsai.
and that's why I love going to it. There's a couple of shops around town that just have recently opened, and I don't care if they're big or small. I mean, I can always find something that I want.
You gotta love that cover.
Oh
Yeah, that Attacker's pretty good. I got that on vinyl.
But so I don't know, to your question, there's really nothing I'm looking for. But I'll know when I find it.
Right. Yeah. Same. I've got all
I
these NWOBHM singles, so I probably won't be seeking anything out. I need to just break these out again. And Scott, I'm saying it live on the air. I will send you my Mithra record.
right on.
It's got Death and Destiny and Killer on side A, and Overlord and UFO on side B. And Steve, do you know, is this the right cover, or didn't it come with a sleeve?
No, it had a sleeve.
Okay. Well, Scott, I'm sorry, it's not complete.
Well, neither is my Def Leppard, but it's better than what the one I have.
Scott will print out a cover for it.
But it's free, so if you don't like it, you can use it for a coaster.
I got a pile of records here that's going out to somebody pretty soon, but there's one of these in there.
Oh, nice.
Yep, so that's going out.
He's showing that to me.
Yep, I'm sending it to Steve. And then
Marcus, now I feel like I need to send you something.
look,
Oh,
Okay.
nice. Yeah, I don't have that one. That's awesome.
Oh, Metal Theologian says this is the original. The picture sleeve was the second version. Interesting.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Well,
then I got this one in here for you. You'll dig.
Okay. I don't know what that one is.
Now I'm
It's
going to look
punk.
it up. Maybe I'm not going to send it to Scott.
It's punk.
Oh, I can't type for some reason.
That was a whirlwind of a show. And
yeah, and we're almost 15 minutes over.
Yep. All right. Well,
Thanks for the education, fellas. I'm sorry I didn't want to be a stick in the mud, and I guess I stayed out of the mud.
Fine. You wore a kick-ass shirt, and it was awesome. Well, let's sign off with all the goodies. Check out our T-shirts at anchormerchandising.com. You can get yourself a nice Metal Round Table T-shirt or panties or toilet paper or whatever. I don't know what all they have. I can't remember. Check out Scott's channel, Scott Waters on YouTube. Check out Harmless Rebel on YouTube. Check out Carcass on Instagram at Carcass John Art. You can find me on Instagram at Metal Rob's Records, where I promise you I'm going to whip your ass with stuff I'm selling in my store. So I apologize. But check us out here every Tuesday at 5. And also check out our radio shows, Deep Dallas Radio, Live 365 app, TuneIn app, Apple Radio. My show is at 5 p.m. every Friday Central Standard Time, and followed up by Carcass, who will crush your ever-loving soul.
And I will give you a pretty heartfelt tribute to Bruce Corbett of War Beast, Rigor Mortis, and the Dallas-Fort Worth metal scene.
Can't wait, man. It's going to be
cool.
Well, boys, until next time, unless there's any parting shots, that is how we do it.
Hey, before we go real quick, hey, Metal Theo, Aaron, hope you heal up quick, man. I know you just had surgery today, so
yes, indeed.
Thanks for tuning in right after surgery. I bet he literally came home and turned it on and listened. So
maybe he's still under anesthesia.
Nice.
Sorry.
Let's hope he didn't have surgery without anesthesia, because we know where that what happens then.
All right, boys. For episode 164 of the Metal Round Table, I am Metal Rob saying metal.
Metal
Oh,
Will
will prevail.